Sometimes, when we return to the building site after 3 weeks away, the changes are overwhelming. And while we're thrilled to see the big steps that have been taken in our absence, we're also a little sad that we haven't been there for exciting discoveries and important milestones. We have full-time jobs, and one of our daughters still living at home back in Norway, so once a month is the maximum of trips we can take to the building site, at least for now. But even though it's tricky to manage to be on site every time something interesting happens, there is a lot to catch up on every time we arrive, and plans to discuss for the upcoming month's work, so we're keeping busy.
Adesso diciamo che ci concentriamo tra gli angoli da risanare e bloccare sempre con le reti, e questa parte qua la chiudiamo e facciamo la volta sopra.
E questo, e quando è che facciamo? Lui ovviamente ha cominciato adesso, ma
Sì.
questa settimana era prossima o di più? Quanto tempo ci vuole più o meno?
Penso anche la prossima questa qua, sicuramente. Se non ci fermiamo, anche la prossima. Bisogna andare adesso a vedere un
Peccato che
attimo.
non ci sto perché lo vorrei tanto vedere. Vabbè. Potevo anche prendere un volo per vederlo e poi tornare meglio, ma è un po'...
un po' difficile.
Sì, sarebbe
Sì.
un po' strano. Guarda. Però se tu fai un sacco di foto...
Sì, foto sicuramente. Foto sicuramente.
Perché sono cose
E
così
quindi-
che sono molto interessanti.
No, infatti sono molto interessanti.
As we return to the house in the beginning of June 2025, the tourist season on the Amalfi Coast was well underway already. And we do have one important tip for you. If you're travelling to the Amalfi Coast, especially in high season, don't come by car. There's very little and very expensive parking. In high season, your number plate decides which day you're allowed to use your car or not. The roads are narrow with lots of curves, and the traffic can be an absolute nightmare. Which unfortunately also means that the buses, that are a perfectly fine way of travelling in winter, will frequently be stuck in traffic too, if you're at all able to get on them, as they are often filled to the brim and above. So you're wiser to leave the road to the locals, who actually need them for their daily duties or emergencies, and head for the ferry. The ferry leaves just a short walk from the train station and will either take you directly to Amalfi or Positano, if that's where you're heading, or for the ones of us who go to one of the smaller places, we get the most scenic sightseeing trip, stopping by all the smaller villages on the way. There's absolutely no better way to arrive for your visit to the Amalfi Coast. The ferry takes us to Minori, the small village near our house, where we're staying in a small and simple hotel while we're waiting for our building crew to get the first room in the ruin ready for us. It does look like that could still take a while though. There is one new major event this time. We've got electricity.
This is a whole story. We had in our contract when we bought the ruin that we would be able to connect to the public electricity system over the land of the neighbour. So it was in our contract, so that should be fine. But in Italy, things are always a little bit more complicated. So long story short, for now, we are pulling it over the land of another neighbour. We have our land there, and we just needed to connect it to a pole on the other side there. But for the final solution to the electricity, we will go with the one in the contract. I hope, because that's easier. But it's here at last. That only took 12 months.
To be fair, it took 12 months from I suggested we'd start applying for a connection. I don't think the electricity company was contacted until a few months later, as there, as I said, were things to sort out. But when all that was in order, it still took months, as we apparently needed an extra long cable that had to be ordered specifically for us. But finally, all of this fell into place. We could switch the power on and send the noisy power generator into a long overdue retirement. And as energy was a huge topic in the comment section on our last video, unfortunately, we're not allowed to use solar panels in this area. As you know by now, the Amalfi Coast is on the UNESCO World Heritage List, and that comes with a lot of limitations as to what you can and can't do with both your house and your land. And rightly so, as I can't imagine what the area could look like now if it didn't. So solar panels are heavily restricted, which of course is a shame because there's no shortage of sun, but also understandable, as the houses and the land here would look a lot different with solar panels scattered everywhere. We do, however, hope that there will be a possibility in the future for placing panels somewhere on the land, if we can find a place where they wouldn't disturb anyone's view. But for now, we have to stick to other energy solutions.
Oh, I love this window. And you don't need big windows here because you don't want big windows actually because the house will get too heated. So you just need openings that are big enough to get the light in and that you can look out and not to get all the heat in, because you don't want sun inside the house in Italy, really. You want shade. It's lovely. Dette kommer til å bli så fint. Det er så gøy. Jeg liker at det begynner å bli konkret. Gøy med den buen. Det ser ut som de bare bygger opp litt etter litt, for der er det jo stoppet der. Så skal det opp til det punktet der, sånn. Så det, ja, det skal være like høyt. Men jeg skulle ønske jeg hadde fått sett når de, også når de la dette nettet. Vi skulle vært der hele tiden, vet du. Det går så fort, de jobber så fort. Det er kjempefint å se gjennom det.
One thing that would need a good makeover was the only remaining roof on the top level.
Always a bit uneasy about the roof here. As you can see, it's not very thick. You can see the hole there. It's like maximum 5 to 10 centimeters. maybe I should wear a hard hat.
Maurizio, of course, has a plan.
Che adesso rifacciamo prima questa volta qua, dobbiamo risanare tutta la parte esterna, quindi andare a chiudere con la rete, che questa qua è proprio rovinatissima.
Quella là?
Sì, questa qua è molto rovinata, quindi questa qua dobbiamo
infatti ho visto
chiudere.
che c'era anche un buco che si vedeva
Sì,
la luce.
infatti, è uscito anche un serpente così.
No,
Peppe l'ha trovato.
adesso, oggi?
No, venerdì. Venerdì.
Also, the walls of the room next to this one needed a bit of work.
Questo pezzo qua, che anche questo era tutto vuoto perché forse questa parte della casa aveva ceduto un po' sotto e quindi la muratura proprio non c'era più. Sì, infatti era proprio tutta aperta, quindi è stata rifatta tutta quanta, tolta tutta la muratura vecchia e rifatta tutta la muratura nuova.
So, what had appeared to be one of the more solid parts of the ruin was actually close to crumbling before Maurizio intervened. The invasive ivy was probably partly to blame, but it did in fact look like our wall was built like two separate walls with a void in between. The part above our arch wasn't all that solid either.
Qua non c'è niente dall'originale, vero?
No,
Tutto
non c'è più niente. No? Abbiamo fatto l'arco e ricostruito tutto quello perché era impossibile, non poteva restare così perché era veramente molto molto pericoloso.
E quanto più alto deve... perché adesso è più basso.
Quando verranno fatte la volta sopra, poi dopo prenderemo una quota precisa. Ad alzare possiamo sempre alzare, poi abbassare poi diventa più un problema.
Structural repairs had been carried out also on the wall between the future living room and the second bedroom.
E qua è solo c'erano dei buchi o avete solo...
Questo era tutto, cioè abbiamo chiuso solo i buchi. Sopra questa matta qua verrà messa la rete strutturale e verrà rifinita poi dopo con la calce che abbiamo fatto vicino alle mura esterne.
E allora la rete la mettiamo su
tutta? Interna, esterna e interna, anche dall'interno.
Ok, anche dall'altro lato?
Sì, poi dopo verranno fatti dei buchi da una parte all'altra in modo che vanno a compattare il muro. Ci sono dei fiocchetti, diciamo, sempre in fibra di vetro e acciaio che vanno a bloccare tutto in modo che fermiamo tutta la muratura e siamo sicuri che verrà fatto un bel lavoro. Sì.
And all over the facade, holes had been filled and construction reinforced.
Abbiamo deciso con Nicola di fare soltanto gli angoli,
Ok.
perché su quelle muratura la muratura è buona, quindi non c'è bisogno di metterci la rete e quindi va bene così, in modo che chiudiamo gli angoli della casa, perché sopra verrà fatta comunque una trave in cemento armato che va a bloccare tutto, quindi con questa parte qua blocchiamo tutta la struttura.
E la matta cosa sei?
Sempre la sabbia e sì, diciamo che la pietra frantumata.
Ok, che abbiamo fatto noi.
Sì, che abbiamo fatto noi, va macinata e poi dopo viene applicata. È lo stesso materiale che c'era prima e quello che ci viene anche adesso. Non alteriamo niente, non cambiamo niente.
E questo è diverso di questo o no?
Questa è la stessa cosa. Su questa qua vengono fatte per
trovare il livello.
Per trovare il livello, sempre la stessa cosa.
Questo qua,
sì.
e poi si fa.
Sì, però comunque
è una casa vecchia. Quindi
sì, appunto, però comunque
va
alla fine
benissimo se si muove.
Sì.
Muoversi no.
Muoversi no.
As much as we loved the way the ruin looked when we first found it, we do understand that in order to make it safe and secure, the repaired version will look a bit different from the ruin we fell in love with. Still, we'd like to keep a little bit of that feeling of history, so we're wondering if the final render could be able to maintain some of that flair.
Perché se riusciamo a fare una cosa con questo colore e anche con questa struttura più o meno, perché non liscia,
No.
però capisci?
Bella ruvida.
Per me sarebbe ancora più bello se è un po' non uniforme il colore. Ma comunque questo qua che è un po' caldo, diciamo, un pochino marrone, giallo, così.
Sì, infatti. Cerchiamo di fare dei campioncini.
Sì.
Così vediamo se ci riusciamo ad avvicinare a questo tipo di materiale. Però deve essere irregolare. Cioè
Irregolare,
deve essere
sì, mi piace.
comunque fatto in modo...
Non come una casa nuova, ma come un rudere che quasi ancora un rudere, sì.
Consumato. E sulle volte cosa avete pensato? Come vengono rifinite?
Quello che avevo discusso con Nicola era farlo con battuto, con quella tecnica vecchia, ma non so se si fa o se è troppo difficile, ma non voglio quella guaina nuova, no, voglio l'aspetto come adesso più o meno.
Il battuto prima si faceva direttamente sulla pietra.
Sì.
Perché che
Perché
succedeva?
deve attaccare.
Deve attaccare. Noi adesso comunque là dobbiamo mettere una rete contro il cemento, quindi il cemento noi dobbiamo lasciarlo quanto più grezzo è possibile, quindi in modo che quando si va a fare il battuto sopra deve aggrappare la cucina.
When you're working in an existing structure instead of building something new, unexpected turns sometimes mean that you'll have to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And here we do have one little problem.
This is where the staircase is going to go, up to the next floor. A little problem there because they finished this doorway and the beams on top there because we thought that the staircase was going to start here and go up. Now we have found that there's an oven in there that we do not want to remove, obviously. So to avoid the staircase crashing into that one, we have to move it a bit out and start it before, which means that we will knock our heads into that beam. So they will have to take it down. I hate that. It's always a shame to take something down after it's built, but in this case I think it's unavoidable. Ho calcolato e la sala deve cominciare.
Quindi vengono 2 scalini in mezzo alla stanza?
Sì, 2 o 3, perché qua ci sarà il frigo, là ci sarà il piano, come si dice, la cucina.
La cucina.
Sì, quindi abbiamo 60 centimetri.
Che Nicola forse voleva evitare di mettere questi scalini.
Sì, ma allora andiamo a finire nel forno.
Nel forno?
Sì, è
okay.
difficile. Perché allora si fa scalini qua, 3 scalini, poi tornano qua e si finisce più o meno a questo livello qui e poi si sale. Che vuol dire che questo qua si batte la testa, sì.
Ci ripristiniamo l'arco che c'è sopra, quindi la facciamo ad arco, non
ad
dritta.
arco, ad arco va bene.
Va benissimo.
E poi col tempo dobbiamo togliere pure questo per arrivare a quella sala.
For the upcoming weeks, Maurizio is planning to remove the floors on the upper level to uncover the vaults underneath that are the ceilings of the kitchen and the storage rooms, and reinforce and ventilate them the same way they're done on ground floor and first floor. And, as usual, we won't be there for the fun part.
Io vengo sempre alle settimane sbagliate perché io voglio venire quando avete aperto ma sai più o meno quando sarà aperto? So di sicuro che noi veniamo solo per una settimana quest'estate, dal 16 luglio, ma a quel punto sarà aperto secondo te o dove siamo?
Possiamo anche organizzarci per potere vedere come vengono fuori.
Perché allora vorrei tanto vedere come.
So maybe we will in fact be able to get there in time for the nerdy, interesting parts on our next trip. But in the meantime, work continues on the vaulted roof of the room we call the girls' bedroom, as it's barely holding up and will need a good reinforcement not to fall on our heads. Yet another thing that will be done in our absence that we would have loved to be there for. So we really need to look into whether it could be possible to eventually spend more time on the building site once we get a small corner we could sleep and work in. A month later, the whole family returned to the Amalfi Coast for our summer holiday. As usual, we stayed in Atrani, the village not far from the ruin, where we have spent our summers since before the girls were born. And since at least some of us were really eager to see the changes that had taken place in the last month, we hurried over to the building site right away, this hot summer afternoon in the middle of July, hoping that Maurizio had left some of the really interesting stages of the process for us to see. And indeed he had.
This is the roof of the secret room that they found. That's right below us here. The one next to the kitchen with the oven in it. And I'm wondering if this has been a separate house, and this was actually a roof. There was nothing above it, but I'm not sure. The layout of this house, the historical, the story of what came first and what came after is really a puzzle. So this is the vault of our kitchen ceiling seen from above. They removed the floor of the future living room on top of it. In this space we don't need the ventilated layer that we have on the rooms that are set on the ground. So this is probably just for reinforcement. I see one little problem, and that is the reinforcement ridge here, because probably the staircase is going to come up right here. So we'll have to move that, well, remove it and make another one to one side or the other. Or I can squeeze the staircase a bit so it could come up here, but it's quite pressured as it is. Would be better if it could come up here, but I don't think, well, I have to look at that. It looks so finished up there with the new roof.
The roof over the girls' bedroom had been given a complete makeover, and that was actually the most amazing part to see. A lot of the things that had been done so far felt a little bit like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, as most of the times it included the demolition of render or floors that were already there and had looked more or less okay, before reconstructing it again back to where it was before, just better. It was always progress, but it didn't always feel like it.
In a way, we seem to be going backwards before we can go forwards. A couple of months ago we had this room was a lawn. We had a lawn on the floor of our living room. Now we don't have a floor anymore, but soon again we will. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, then 2 steps forward again.
The process of the roof was the same, but although it wasn't all finished yet and still needed extra layers to keep it completely waterproof, it somehow looked like a perfect roof already. In a way, that felt like the first glimpse of how the house will look once it will be finished. So the roof was done for now, but the top level floors were not, and now we had a whole week in front of us to get to see how the team would work on them. And that you will get to see more of in our next episode.